Oh, welcome one and all to another brand new episode of Undisputed Nerds. I am your weeb of a host, Zane Taisho, and as always, I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, the gentlemanly gamer. Woo!
Woo! Woo! Woo! Good evening, everyone. Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Happy time zone, everyone. Hello, everyone in Radio Land. How are we? No name change here, just the gentlemanly gamer coming at you. How are you, Zane Tai Cho Champagne?
Champagne. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I went and saw an anime movie last night at the cinema.
What? Was it Akira?
The only one that comes out here in the West.
You can't count the Scarlett Johansson remake of Ghost in the Shell. I'm sorry.
No, you cannot.
What did you see?
It's My Hero Academia World Hero Mission.
Well, it's been an interesting week here at the Undisputed Nerds Podcast, guys. Was it good, at least? Was it good?
Yes, it was good. It's the third movie in the franchise, but I'll be doing a review of that on Undisputed Anime. Beautiful segue.
He's got a quick plug-in already. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This guy. We come to you humble. We have not seen June yet. However, we are planning on seeing June. So there will be some information coming about June, probably next week, I would guess.
In course.
He's very good, this weeb.
Wow.
But yeah, anyway, so yeah, this week we thought we'd take a little bit of a break from reviews and previews and all that jazz, and cover. Well, we've had DC fandom, haven't we, Zane? So yeah. we thought this week we'd do a look back at the DCEU movies, DCEU specifically movies, and do a bit of a tier list of them and judge them like the judge in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And let me tell you, whoever is not up to snuff is getting dipped. I'm putting it out there right now, like the innocent shoe. They are getting dipped. Suicide Squad, I'm looking at you.
Amazing.
But first,
some beautiful tips and bits. I hope you've got your teas and biscuits ready, because we've got some tips and bits to go through.
Or bacon and eggs, or evening meal, wherever you are in the world.
Whenever you're listening to this.
Yeah, Christmas dinner.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Halloween, everyone, by the way. We're recording this on Halloween weekend. So for our American listeners, I know it's absolutely huge over here. It's getting bigger over there even. It's getting bigger over here, but yeah. Do you have Halloween plans, Zane?
I am going to a costume party tonight. Remember the good old days where it used to be called Fancy Dress?
I know. I did a cosplay stream last night on my Twitch, and I did it with somebody else. That was Jay and Silent Bob, and like the amount of times I called it Fancy Dress, and the Americans who were watching were like, "What the hell is that? What is this fancy dress? What are you talking about? I don't even know what that is."
So when we went and saw the anime movie last night, obviously there were people there cosplaying as characters, and we, being slightly older, were like, look at all these young people get to do fancy dress. It's not fair.
Welcome to my world, honestly. Jeez, that's it's horrible. I told the story on stream the other day about I went into I was in a subway with my wife. Me and my wife are both in our mid to late 30s. I know you could never tell. Look at my boyish face.
Sorry so much.
I honestly, I have to sleep in this stuff. Like a vat. I'm like the guy out of June who just sleeps in that tar bath, but it's just moisturizer. I get lifted out of it. My moisturizer. My June.
Cassandra from Doctor Who, where she's like, "Moisturize me."
Oh yeah, that's me every night. I stretch out my face and get moisturized. No, what's his name? Stellan Skarsgård, I think, in June, the big fat guy who's in charge of the spice. That's me having my moisturizing bath every day. But yeah, I was in a subway and there was like a group of like teenagers in there. They must have been like mid-teens, like 15-year-old, 14-year-old, and a bunch of girls. And there was a song that came on the radio in Subway, and I won't sing it for DMCA purposes, but it was the Black Eyed Peas, "Where Is the Love?"
Okay.
Now, one of the girls said something that made me feel so old that it still haunts me to this day, because I remember that song coming out when I was in my early 20s, and I remember it being number one when I was like 19, 20, around there.
Sure. Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, I remember this song. I remember it being around when I was 5."
Oh man.
Yeah,
That's
it made me feel
painful.
very old. Very, very old. Anyway, for those of you who want to share painful memories of youth and getting on, write in to nerds.undisputed@gmail.com.
The spring of youth.
The spring of youth, yes.
Talking of June, though, we got some news that Legendary and Warner Bros. Have confirmed that June Part 2 has officially been greenlit with the release date of October 20th, 2023.
It's very good, very, very good news, this.
Yeah.
So, from what I can... well, first of all, it's weird because it's a Denis Villeneuve film that's done well. That's odd in the first instance. Because he's got a reputation for making incredible movies that don't necessarily do well at the box office, but then have this like following afterwards. So I'm very, very happy that June has done well. For all intents and purposes, and from what I have read and seen in reviews, spoilers, guys, for next week when we talk about it probably, but it's apparently very, very good. And it does feel like it's the beginning of something bigger. So it was created with the design to be part one of a series, like it is in the books.
Sure.
So I'm extremely happy that it's got greenlit for part 2. I know that Villeneuve and Zimmer have already confirmed they're coming back. Hans Zimmer's coming back for the score.
Nice.
So like, yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm excited for that. It's nice to have a big. I don't know about you, but like I feel like sometimes with the homogenization of comics and comic book films and all this stuff, sometimes I feel like we've lost those kind of big epic films like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars is a good example, although Star Wars became its own kind of parody in the last couple of years. But like this feels like a big blockbuster opera movie kind of feel. And I love that. I'm really happy for it. I'm just so happy that cinema's doing well again in general. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like it's after the pandemic, it's fantastic news. So yeah, very happy about this.
I'm pretty sure as well. I saw an interview where he said that he originally planned for this to be a trilogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way the books are written, so obviously June was made into a movie in the 80s with is it Carl McLaughlin? Is that his name? I can never remember what his name is. The guy who was in Twin Peaks, and I can't remember what his name is, but that guy. And they had a good stab at it in the 80s, but they had to, in order to because the book is massive, because obviously June is based on a novel by the guy who I've forgotten what his name is now, but I'll remember for next week. But the novel's huge, and so they tried to condense all of it into one film in the 80s, and it didn't really work. It was an all right movie, but it didn't, and also the effects at the time weren't what they probably should have been for the imagination. And so what it is now, and Villeneuve has taken the approach of being like, well, I'm going to do this one movie and I'm going to make it as good as I can, but I'm going to very, very obviously leave it open-ended because this is too much of a story to tell in just one film. And it's paid off for him, man. I mean, part 2, here we go. So yeah, I'm super excited. Yeah,
same. I'm really interested to see where this goes, and of course not have seen the first one yet. I've seen clips of the 80s version, but I haven't seen the complete version of it, shall we say. But
I saw it a long time ago when I was younger. It was fine, but it just wasn't anything like, I think it limited by its time, let's put it that way. Limited by its time. But you and I should go and see Dune together, actually.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Unless
and Eternals.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Eternals. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen anything about? I don't know whether you're going to talk about it in the news, but have you seen any of the early reviews of the Eternals?
I've seen mixed.
Yeah.
I've seen mixed.
Spoiler alert ahead, guys. I'll tell you this, Zane, because I don't care anymore. But apparently it's the as far as Rotten Tomatoes is concerned, it is officially worse than Thor: The Dark World.
Wow.
It's not been well received, this one. So yeah, I still stick with my guns that all of them apart from like 2 of the Eternals are going to die at the end of this. But first, I've heard sorry, we're tangenting off on from the news. I apologize, but I heard a rumor that speculation ahead, guys. Apparently, there was an article that I read that the Celestials are apparently alive again in the MCU because of Hulk's snap. Apparently it was like they talk about like a convergence event or something like that in the Eternals in the trailers and stuff like that. And the working theory is that when Hulk brought everyone back to life, he also brought back to life the Celestials at the same time.
Wow.
So yeah, there's that, which is why they appear in the trailer and stuff, and why it looks like it's a modern version of Angelina Jolie's character meeting one of the Celestials and stuff like that, because they're back alive. So yeah, interesting. I wonder what ramifications that will have as far as if that is true. Speculation galore, guys. Take it with a pinch of salt. But yeah, it's an interesting thought.
Absolutely, that's crazy. On the talk of speculation, I don't know if you saw it, but Empire had a special Spider-Man No Way Home issue.
I did see this. Yeah, go on.
We got loads of tips and bits from it. So, for example, one statement that came out of it is No Way Home will be nothing less than Spider-Man Endgame.
Yeah, wasn't there also a image of Dr. Octopus squeezing Spider-Man's head?
Yes.
Yeah. And interestingly, that confirmed, because a lot of people were speculating that when Alfred Molina says hello, Peter, he was saying hello to Tobey Maguire's Peter, but it's not. I mean, he's in the Iron Spider armor, so like it is Tom Holland's Spider-Man that Doc Ock is tangling with. So I've heard a lot of things this week about about Tom Holland saying that it's his last Spider-Man.
Yes.
So
yeah, I've seen that as well.
That being said, look, we've been over this many times on the show before. We've spoken about it specifically in reference to young Mr. Paul Bettany, but MCU actors are absolute liars, guys. And I think Tom Holland's like reasoning for saying it was his last Spider-Man is they haven't signed him up to another contract yet. And I'm like, well, that's going to take like 5 minutes. That is literally there's no way they're not going to snap up Tom Holland again to continue Spider-Man, because there's especially now that we've had the revelation that Venom's in the MCU, there's too many ramifications from that to not have arguably the most popular Spider-Man in the role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look, I have a great love of Maguire, but like Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man. He, as far as like this age is concerned of Spider-Man, like, high school to like early, late teens, like Tom Holland has been the perfect Spider-Man, perfect for it. And anyone who wants to argue with me, fine, you can argue with me, but just read the books. And I'm excited to see him grow up and be like a more mature Peter Parker and deal with kind of whether or not they continue with Zendaya as MJ, I don't know or not, because she's obviously not she's not the MJ that we know from the books, but whether or not they do that. But I want to see him kind of grown up and dealing with real world problems while still being Spider-Man and stuff. And also obviously being part of the Avengers, because he's a core member of the Avengers. So there's no way Tom Holland's not going to stay on, is there? I mean, come on, Zane, is there?
No, I don't. Like you said, it'd be silly to let him go. The only reason I can imagine that they would is Miles Morales. But I feel like they've done so much of the Miles stuff with the Tom Holland Spider-Man. It might be too early.
I think that I oh, it's raining outside. Sorry. Yes, I would like to see Miles, but I think that I would rather see if you look at the books and stuff like that, and you look at the where Miles appears, he works with Peter Parker for a while, whilst he learns from Peter Parker as a Spider-Man, and I think it would be I think it's going to be a great arc for Tom Holland, who's had all these experiences. We'll see what happens with No Way Home. You can never tell, but he's had all these mentorship experiences with Tony, with Mysterio, and now seemingly with Doctor Strange and stuff. It would make sense if in the future trilogy he becomes the mentor, and then he mentors a young Miles Morales. That would make a lot more sense. But I'm not writing for Marvel yet. But no, anyway.
Calling.
Oh God, I'm hanging up.
More money.
Yeah.
As we talk about Venom and that spoiler end credit sequence, Tom Holland apparently pitched Sony on how Spider-Man could join the Venom verse. This again comes from Empire magazine. Mm-hmm. In a statement, he says, I drove over to Amy Pascal's house and we sat there for hours pitching movies. How could we do a film without Marvel?
What is this weird... Can I just ask, right? What is this weird relationship that Tom Holland has with like the senior ups at like Marvel and like Sony and stuff where, what was it? Didn't he ring like, what was it? Ike Perlmutter or something? Bob Iger. He rang Bob Iger. Was just like crying on the phone. Being like, I want to be part of the MCU. I want to be part of the MCU. Why has he got an American accent? He's English. I don't know why. I want to be part of the MCU. Why? Like, what is this weird relationship that he has with like the higher ups? Like, I was just out and I was just driving and I thought I'd just stop by and say hi. I bought you a banana loaf. Here you go. Let's talk about how Spider-Man could be part of Venom. It's so weird. But I mean, yeah, fair enough. I mean,
if he's got that relationship, yeah.
Which is, again, it just harkens back to why I don't think they'll let him go. If it's really that close of a relationship and everything, there's no way they would sign him to a new contract. I think it's with all this, I think with everything that's going on with Uncharted, that he's probably like cutting ties a little bit with Marvel to be like, I can do more than just Spider-Man. But, I mean, much in the same way that Cavill is now, although actually Henry Cavill's kind of branched out. That's not a good... Okay, Daniel Craig, much like Daniel Craig is now James Bond forever. Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy. Tom Holland is Spider-Man. Iron Man. There you go. Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man forever. Tom Holland is now Spider-Man forever.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that.
You talk now.
I think I see what you mean. Like, similar how Chris Hemsworth tried to do movies in between Thor films, like he did the Moby Dick one a couple of years ago.
And that classic Men in Black International.
Who could forget that?
Exactly. Yeah. Who?
Oh man, there's just so much to talk about. You'll love this as well. Something else that came from the Empire magazine. Spider-Man No Way Home will bring back 2 more classic villains. Allegedly leaked photos from Empire magazine Spider-Man No Way Home issue. 2 classic Spider-Man villains and their original actors are returning, one from The Amazing Spider-Man and one from Spider-Man 3.
Great. So wait, hang on. So coming back from the greatest films, Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes.
I think they've already pretty much confirmed, haven't they? Because they're going to do the Sinister Six, like a multi-dimensional Sinister Six. So we've got Electro, we've got Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and then I think the rumors were Sandman, because there's Sandman is in you can kind of
Spider-Man
see him
3.
Around. Lizard, I think, was the other one that was rumored, and then Electro. So there's your 6. So yeah, fine. It'd be interesting to see if it's Rhys Ifans coming back as Lizard. I would be surprised by that because I don't think he's never spoken about anything Marvel related since he did it. And then Thomas Hayden Church. I'd very much like to see him back as Sandman because he was very, very good, and he was unfortunately given a real dud of a movie. But sorry guys, Spider-Man 3 was not good. If you are out there thinking it's great. Sorry, you're wrong. New Goblin can suck my. But yeah, I'm happy with that. I just hope the setup is right. I hope they're not relying too much on you have to have seen these films to understand what's going on, because that's a pratfall that falls into the MCU as well. Like Endgame, you really had to have seen a lot of the previous stuff in order to watch it, and it was fine because the MCU movies are some of the most popular films ever. But the whole reason why Tom Holland is Spider-Man now is because the Andrew Garfield movies failed so spectacularly, and bringing
amazingly,
back,
some would say,
amazingly, and bringing back baddies from that, which people aren't actually going to remember. I actually watched The Amazing Spider-Man 2 the other day again.
Did you really?
To remind myself how it wasn't as bad as I remember it being. It wasn't as bad. I will say this. Electro's actually all right in it. Like, Jamie Foxx is actually pretty good as Electro. I did enjoy
Once he's Electro, I think he's good.
Yes, his motivations for becoming Electro and stuff are terrible, awful, absolutely awful. But like, once he is Electro, he's really good. And I will say that the relationship dynamic between Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker is what makes that movie watchable. If it wasn't Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield, it would be absolute pants, like really bad. Dane DeHaan is actually all right as Harry as well. It's interesting that in one film, the Peter and Harry relationship is a lot more believable than in the Tobey Maguire what's his name? Yeah, I can't remember what the guy's name is.
James Franco?
Yes, James Franco, thank you. It's much more believable in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 than it is in like the whole trilogy of that. But that's right, fight me, nerds. But no, it's not a good film. It's not a good film. No. But it did make me watch it and go, oh yeah, actually, Jamie Foxx's Electro is going to be all right coming back, man. He's actually pretty good, pretty good as Electro. So
also, I don't know if you noticed, there's this Easter egg that he constantly has the Spider-Man mask like hanging out of his back pocket. Like, he's always got the red. In Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh really? Yeah. I didn't know that.
He's got like this red thing, almost looks like a hat hanging out of his back pocket, but it's like a joke to say like it's there in front of everyone and they can't see it. Like,
oh, that's cool. I never noticed that. There you go. Well, clearly, there you go. What a joke. Yeah, it just really fell apart. Like, that film really falls apart in the weight of its own ego when it's going like, we're gonna do all these villains, and the way that we're gonna introduce these villains is by having a basement full of tech. Woo! Yeah, give a guy a suit, he becomes that guy. Whoop-de-doo. I think Paul Giamatti, I will say this, Paul Giamatti is wasted in that film as Rhino. Man, he is wasted as Rhino. He is so good. If you've never seen the show Billions, by the way, guys, with Paul Giamatti and Damian Lewis in it, go and watch it because it is fantastic. It's going a little bit long in the tooth now, but man, it's good. Just watch the first 3 seasons. That is drama television at its best. It's chef's kiss, Zane.
Ooh, talking of chef kisses,
Bill
Gordon
Ramsay snog.
Bill Murray has a secret role in Ant-Man 3. Can you believe this?
Ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, listen, if there's one thing I know about Bill Murray, it's that he likes to troll a lot. So this is going to be like Bill Murray's going to be at a hot dog stand as like Ant-Man like falls on it or something, isn't it? It's going to be ridiculous. Or it's going to be like his Zombieland thing where he gets shot in the chest.
He's probably just going to play as Bill Murray in Ant-Man 3.
Exactly. That is probably exactly it. It's Garfield, everyone. He's going to be Garfield again.
Actually, now you said that, I wonder if he does the voice of like one of the ants or something. You know, like Ant-Man has Anthony or Antonio, like as his. Yeah, that would be amazing, I reckon.
The only other thing he might be like because we know that Kang is going to be heavily involved in Ant-Man 3, so maybe he's going to be like a TVA agent or something like that who turns up or something, some cameo drop. I don't know. I still think that in my head, I still think that Ant-Man 3 is going to be the formation of the TVA. Because I think what Marvel are doing is with Kang is they're playing around with time. Because obviously there's multiple different versions of Kang. So I think what we've seen already from all the TVA that is to come, we'll now see the origin of that TVA, which will be over here, and then it'll go back, but then it's going forward.
Timey-wimey.
They'll go full timey-wimey Doctor Who-y.
Doctor Who-y. Last bit
have
of
we
news.
spoken on this podcast about the Doctor Who news, by the way?
Yeah, we have.
Okay, good. I was going to say, I thought we had, but I was just wanted to make sure.
I swear we've done it for like last two or 3 weeks.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if you and I had spoken offline about it or whether we'd actually talked on the podcast about it. But yeah, anyway, sorry, my bad.
Last bit of news is, and this is a beautiful segue into the main subject, cancelled Aquaman The Trench. The movie was supposed to be a Black Manta spin-off, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Aquaman director James Wan recently shed some light on the cancelled Trench movie, saying it would have served as a secret spin-off movie for Yahya Abdul II's Black Manta.
Oh, I'm actually disappointed. Screw you, James Wan. I'm actually disappointed by that. I thought it was just going to focus on that stupid trench with all the monsters in it.
Yeah, I honestly thought this would be like a teen horror movie, bunch of teens partying on a boat, and then some trench.
Yeah, it would have been Piranha 4D. I'm really disappointed by that. I'd love to see a Black Manta spin-off. He's the best part of Aquaman. Oh, that sucks.
The other day, I was, as you do, have these random thoughts, and I was like, dream casting Jon Stewart, and I was like, you know what? Actually,
it would be good.
Would be amazing. And then I thought, no, he's already Black Manta.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? He's in one of. I liked Aquaman. We'll talk about it in the tier list, but like, it is one of the most forgettable DCEU films. It really is. You know, it's so forgettable. I forgot it was in the DC. But like, he's great in it. Like, he's really good in it. And but I think the problem is now he's Morpheus as well. Like, you know, once you get into these, there is a certain thing for, and he's Candyman as well. There is a certain thing for him being stereotyped and getting stuck in certain things. So, that actually has disappointed me. Of all the DC properties out there, I would have loved to have seen Black Manta, because like he's one of those heroes. One of those villains where it's like you kind of know his origin a little bit, but there's so much depth to that character to look into. Forgive the pun, Aquaman depth. But there's so much to look into. Like with that, and that would have been really interesting. Yes, DC, make interesting choices. Stop canceling things. Oh, look, it works for Marvel. Like with the Eternal. Oh, I've gone there.
Too soon.
Sorry, Shang-Chi was good.
Yeah, Shang-Chi was really good. But yeah, Black Manta. Especially for those of us who have seen Young Justice, where they've really kind of like explored Black Manta and stuff like that. It's a mini shame.
That is a shame. Well, interesting. There's plenty of tips and bits out there this week, guys, that we may have missed. But if we've missed some of your hottest tips and bits, please let us know. Get in touch through all the usual channels. But it's the main event time, Zane. What are we here to do?
We go.
What are we here to do, Tiger?
We are here to tier some DCEU movies. Here we go.
So just as a disclaimer to this, guys, we're going to do a high-level overview of these films. We're not going to go into mass amounts of details on them, purely because if we do, we will be here until it actually is Christmas. So we're just going to give you a high-level overview of the films. We're going to give you what we thought of them, and then we're gonna slap them on. We'll slap them on the board. But should we go in chronological order of these?
Yes. Which is
start with Man of Steel, isn't it?
Steel, yeah. Man of Steel. Okay, so Henry Cavill's big debut, 2013, I believe.
Was it 2013? I thought it was earlier than that. Was it 2012? I thought it was.
We'll roll with that.
I remember watching it. I remember seeing it in Germany because I lived there when it came out. No, you're right. 2013. You are correct.
What a guess.
Look at that. You are bang on the money, my friend. So Cavill's first stint as Superman. I mean, really kind of a retelling almost of an origin story again, I guess, of Superman. The big difference this time was it was very Nolan produced off the back of his successes with The Dark Knight. Good villain in it, really good villain. Zod, very much the dark mirror kind of to Superman, with the exception of Bizarro, obviously. And his generals, Feora and whoever the other one is, Mong.
I think it's Piccolo because it's supposed to be a Dragon Ball.
It's not Piccolo. What are you talking about?
It's a Dragon Ball reference.
I thought it was MON. I thought it was Mon, isn't it?
Or it might be. Is it Namek?
Hang on, I'll find out. Feora. Oh my god, there's such a cast listing for it. Why didn't we look this up before? Hang on, guys. Hang on. So it's Zod. Zod. It's Feora Ul, and then it is. Oh my god. There's so many. Like, the problem is there's so many Kryptonians in this film. All right, keep talking, Zane. I'll find it.
Okay. So this is supposed to be the launch pad of the DCEU. So as we said, this comes off the back of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. So of course we've already been exposed to MCU at this point, which had been around since 2008.
Non. Non. It's not Mon. It's Non. Sorry, my bad. Yes, there we go. Feora and Non and General Zod. That was it. Carry on.
So yeah, this was the launch pad, and what would later on build up to the rest of the DCU. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
So I was going to say a couple of things that this film did really well was Krypton. Seeing the destruction of Krypton and the final days of Krypton was excellent. I'm not sure how much I enjoyed the situation where at the last minute Zod was put into the Phantom Zone, and that's how he avoided. Like it felt weird that he was put into the Phantom Zone right at the end of the film of Krypton, where it was about to be destroyed, and that's how he got saved. Like I much prefer the idea of like he was a rogue general in the Kryptonian army that was put in there, and it had nothing to do with the end of Krypton. But I really enjoyed it. Was a crazy version of Krypton as well, because it's like this bio-organic like tech that they use. We've not really seen it in that. I mean, we've seen obviously the Fortress of Solitude and those crystals and stuff like that, and we know there is some kind of bio-organic technology with Krypton. But no, it's fascinating. I really enjoyed, and Russell Crowe's performance doing his best Marlon Brando was great as well. I think that the thing that the film gets kind of weighed down is Superman is supposed to be this beacon of hope and light, and it doesn't matter what is happening in the world. Superman is the person that you can look to and be like, everything is going to be okay because Superman is on the case. Like that, he is the, he's everything. If we had a Superman in the world today, it'd be nice. I wish we had a Superman in the world. But like, I felt like that it got a bit bogged down in his own personal strife kind of situation, where it's like, especially with the ending where he kills Zod. Spoiler alert, guys, for a film that's almost 10 years old. There was a lot of controversy on that, and I wasn't a huge fan of it because Superman shouldn't really kill people. I can understand their motivation behind doing it, but yeah, this was also this is Zack Snyder's first film off the back of Watchmen, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Yeah, I mean, it's very Snyder-esque in terms of its visuals and look and feel. And some would say I would argue that maybe looking back on reflection now, maybe Zack Snyder wasn't the best person to launch off the DCEU with, because it really did give a template for DC heroes that doesn't necessarily work, and we'll talk about that in some of the later ones. I would put this at a very solid BA because it was a great film.
Yeah.
So guys, for those of you not aware, sorry, we should go through the tier rankings. So we've got a grade. We've got A, B, C, D, F. I'm not sure why we've got F on there, but anyway, I think it's basically
failure.
Yeah. So we've got absolute failure. We've got super for Superman, which is the best, and then we've got A, B, C, D, which is kind of just a generic ranking in the middle. It's definitely not in the lower half of this. I would say that it's an A or a B. I don't think it quite hits the peaks of like the original Christopher Reeve Superman. No. But I'm more than happy to be challenged on that one, Zane.
So personally, I would say this is an A tier movie, only because the amount of times I've rewatched this movie, and not only do I discover something new, but how layered it is. So, like you say, it's Superman's personal journey, which is a different take on it. Because, like you said, historically, he's always been an outside force that we've wanted to get to know. And, you know, you go on that journey, don't you? Especially with the Christopher Reeve version.
Yes.
With this version, it's his own personal journey, his own personal moralities and such that he goes on. You know, he could do all these amazing things like save his father from a storm, but that would expose him. He could, you know, again, there's all these numerous things. And
yeah, that is a questionable moment in the film, I will say that. Yeah. He could have very easily saved his dad and not had no one notice. I'm just going to say, like, yeah. he has races with the Flash for how quick he is. He very easily could have saved his dad and dog from that tornado without even anyone blinking. But there you go. Anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah, but at the same time,
maybe Pa Kent just wanted to die. He was like, "I'm sick. I can't. Martha is just too much. I can't deal with her anymore. I'm sorry. Just let me die.
I'm so tired of the farm." Like,
yeah. Can you think of the insurance money? This is going to get you loads. I'm done. I'm out. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, and at the same time, I think it's I can't remember the philosopher's name, but there's a nod to a young Clark Kent reading a book on this Greek philosopher, and it all ties into the whole theme of the movie.
Socrates?
I think it is Socrates, because it's all about because obviously there's the space pod with all the genetic codes to rebuild Krypton and such.
Yeah, don't know how I feel about that, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So yeah, it's and his decision to again either rebuild Krypton. It's touched on ever so slightly, but his whole decision on saving us or rebuild Krypton, because of course it was terraforming and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's a weird thing talking about the destruction of worlds when we're in the middle of a global crisis at the moment with the COP 2026 or 28 or whatever it is, and the world is cooking itself. But yeah, I agree. Put it in an A. It's a fine film on its own right. I personally, looking back in hindsight now, I don't think it should have been the launch point for the DCEU. I think it tainted a lot of the follow-ups that were to come. And really, the thing that we'll probably see across this whole stretch as we do it is the DCEU constantly searching for some form of an identity. And there's no greater example of that than the movie that comes next,
Batman v Superman.
Oh my God. You and I are going to disagree on this one quite heavily. Quite heavily. I did not like this movie. There are numerous reasons why I don't like this movie. Let's see. So Cavill's performance is excellent, as usual. He is a great Superman. He remains a great Superman. I think, with the exception of probably Christopher Reeve, he's probably the best Superman we've had. So he is a constant force in this. I think his relationship with Lois is very good, although not explored enough. It needs to be explored more.
Agreed.
I think the introduction of Wonder Woman, whilst it was ham-fisted, shall we say, Gal Gadot does very well. Or sorry, Gadot, I think is how you officially say her name. She's really good in it. And she is really good as Wonder Woman. There's no two ways about it. She's a great Wonder Woman, and I like her a lot. That is about as far as I go. Oh, okay. And for all of the critics out there and for all the worries, Ben Affleck was a good Batman and he was a good Bruce Wayne. He is good. There's no two ways about it. However, that being said, same with Superman and Man of Steel, there are very, 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 very questionable choices that are made with the Batman character in this film. He is a murderer in this film. I'm sorry, he is a stone cold killer in this film, and that ain't Batman at all. If you've read any of the books or know any of the history of the character, he abhors murder. He will never kill. It's totally against everything he stands for. It really annoyed me that he was just willy-nilly, because like even in the Keaton movies and stuff like that, when he killed, it was always like, because he did kill, and I still want to do that tier list with you of Batman no scopes. Like it was normally inadvertent murder. Like it wasn't, he didn't intend for them to die. They ended up killing themselves. And that's how I always justify it. It's like, you know, he didn't mean to kill Joker. He wasn't expecting the gargoyle to break off and like weigh him down. You know, he wasn't expecting Penguin to fall backwards and fall to his death. He doesn't kill people. Like he just doesn't. This Batman, like, man, he like explodes flamethrowers. He's like flinging his car through people. Like he's going machine guns, like full on murdering people. It wasn't good like that. You know, you could tell that Frank Miller was having a wet dream whilst he was watching this film. Honestly, so I didn't like the portrayal of Batman in that regard. The crowning turd in the water pipe for me on this film is Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal as Lex Luthor. Oh my God, it's absolute rubbish or garbage if you're watching in America. It is the worst portrayal. Somebody went, whether it was Snyder or whoever's doing the casting, somebody went, oh, you see The Social Network? Oh, he's really good as Zuckerberg. Oh, imagine if Zuckerberg was creepy Lex Luthor. Oh, let's do that. Oh, what is this? What is it? And like, it's just I think that Gene Hackman was fine as Lex Luthor back in the Superman era. Although I will say that he didn't. Lex Luthor has never had he's never had good motivations for being a baddie, and he still didn't in this film. Ultimately, it just didn't work. You know, it's either some real estate deal that's gone wrong, a la Hackman or Spacey, or it's I'm a tech giant billionaire who can do whatever he wants, and I don't like that there's a Superman. Like it just terrible. And I don't know, Jesse Eisenberg was so out to lunch on this performance. Like it was awful. Like it's awful. It's so bad. Like so bad. And what else was I going to say? Like Jesse Eisenberg is the worst in this film. He makes the film depressing for me. Like I genuinely have problems watching it because of his performance. And then the ending. Oh, the ending. Like you have this thing where you have a fight, right? You've got a fight between Batman and Superman. Now, I will say this: that fight is really good. It's really, really good, and it goes to, and they do a very, very good job. They do a really good job, in fact, of portraying how Batman is Superman's equal, and it wouldn't just be, because a lot of people have just said, "Oh yeah, well, you know, why doesn't Superman just fly through Batman and rip him in half?" It's like that wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. And anyone who understands the characters, it just wouldn't happen. And it does a really good job of showing that not only could Batman hold his own against Superman, there's probably a really high chance that he would kill him if the odds were even and the gloves were off. There is probably a pretty good chance that Bruce Wayne would be, because he's supposed to be one of the most intelligent people in the DC universe. Like he is up there. He is a genius level intellect. You know, that he is it's not really been explored in the films, but he is the greatest detective in the DCEU. He can solve anything. And if he's got a problem, you know, there's literally a book called The Nail, the Justice League, The Nail, where somebody gets hold of one of his plans, which is a plan if the Justice League ever turned, how he would take them down, and he used it. Is it the nail or is it
Tower of Babel?
Oh, Tower of Babel, that was it. Yeah, the nail is the next one. Sorry, my apologies.
Gets all the plans.
Yeah, exactly. He gets the plans and he uses them against the Justice League, and like that's why I think this film does a really good representation of showing he has enough wits and resource to be able to take down Superman if he wanted to, and he would win, and he does win in The Dark Knight Returns as well. There's that book is there's a fight at the end between them, which is where the inspiration for the armored Batman comes from. That bit I'm all good with. It's the Doomsday involvement. That's because you take something that's already terrible with Jesse Eisenberg, and then you add in so in the books, Doomsday is an unstoppable killing weapon that was created by Kryptonian scientists on a desolate planet, basically to create the ultimate genetic killing machine and the ultimate weapon. And the idea was that weapon could be used on other planets and sent as a world killer. Essentially, that's what Doomsday is. And so that the origin of Doomsday is he's born, he's put onto a barren wasteland, killed. Then they take the memories and genetic data from that murder, and they clone him so that he adapts next time until it becomes to the point where it's happened thousands of times that he is unstoppable, and every time he gets killed or every time he is murdered, his body evolves a protection against it the next time. Yeah. So that's why if you read The Death of Superman, I think at one point Superman like burns out his eyes or something like that, and then his eyes grow back with like armor over them so that he doesn't get hurt again in that way. This version of Doomsday was a weird Lex Luthor love child with Zod, the dead corpse of Zod.
Yeah, that absorbed energy and grew stronger every time it did.
Yeah, it was basically, and again, it was Leech. It was the version of like a weird version of the villain Parasite. Yeah, that's who it was. But like they called it Doomsday because they wanted to kill Superman.
Yeah.
Why didn't they have Brainiac turn up? I don't understand why they didn't have Brainiac turn up looking for the Kryptonian, the lost Kryptonian data. Like, I get that you needed a big bad. Like that's, I understand you needed like a big bad so that Superman and Batman would stop fighting and be mates. Like I get it, but really, Doomsday?
Even Metallo would make sense.
Exactly. Even Cyborg Metallo. Superman. Fake have a fake Superman, like, and then it's like you have to take that. Yeah, it didn't work. It did not work. And I know that you love this film. I know you do. But I think you love this film for Batfleck, don't you?
Not just Batfleck. And I completely agree with all the points you made about this film in terms of bad direction when it came to Lex Luthor, because let's face it, the best live-action Lex Luthor we've ever had was on
Rosenbaum. Yeah, I knew you were going to say Rosenbaum. He's amazing. He's so good.
Incredible.
Yes.
But that's on a TV show. We've never had like a.
But I will say this as well. That Lex Luthor had years to mature into what he was, and that's the problem with. And I think that's the issue with the with DC films and stuff like that. You need with a character like Lex Luthor. Yeah, he has no, unless you put him in the power armor that he makes, he's got no physical prowess. He's just a man. But again, it's like we were talking about with Bruce Wayne. He is ridiculously intelligent, like genius level intelligence. Yeah, and he is one of those people where it's like he shouldn't be direct conflict with Superman. There should be no. He is a machinations man. Like he makes things happen behind the scenes, and I don't think the films ever really get that. It's always a situation where it's like, hey, we've got the most powerful hero in the entire universe. He's indestructible. He fires lasers from his eyes. He's got thrust breath. He's amazing. Let's put him up against a bloke.
Yeah.
And it's just never worked, and it will never work. He needs to be a behind the scenes guy, intricately playing
planner.
You know, like I'll tell you what the perfect example of this would be. Zemo. He needs to be like a Zemo. That is a great example, except instead of it being against like a Batman or whatever, it should be against a big villain like Metallo or, you know, Cyborg Superman. And Lex Luthor is doing the machinations of that in the background and making it happen, instead of it being a, you know, hey, I don't like you and I'm going to kill you with a bullet.
Yeah. But the all of the things you pointed out, I wasn't really a fan of. Like, even when they announced the title of it, Batman v Superman, I was like, oh man, come on. Like, they're the best of friends. Like, you don't get series like World's Finest, which is basically the best friend adventures of Batman and Superman for no reason. So yeah, I wasn't a fan of the title and stuff. But the reason I do like this, yes, I like Batfleck. I like the aesthetic of this as well. Like, you know, scenes where he's staring at his bat costume, almost, again, the gravity of his performance and stuff of that nature. It's more the aesthetic and everything else that builds around it. You know, again, things like the sequence where the cops go in and they see Batman for the first time. The Jason Todd, well, in commas, Jason Todd costume.
It's not Jason Todd. It's not. It was confirmed by Snyder. It was Dick Grayson.
It's supposed to be Grayson, yeah, which is supposed to be this whole reason why he kills now as well, because he's lost everything, which is ridiculous. But again, someone who I really enjoyed the director's cut. I didn't like Jimmy Olsen dying in the opening as well. But then again, until I watched it, I was like, well, to be fair, what is Jimmy Olsen going to bring to the table? Like,
oh yeah, Superman murders people in this as well, doesn't he? He punches that terrorist through a brick wall, absolutely murdering him. But yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's.
I think I would put this at I'm going to be honest with you. You're not going to like this, but I would put this at a B or a C. It's right in the middle for me in terms of tiers on this.
I'm happy. I'm happy with the C.
Okay, cool.
I know it's not for everyone.
I would be happy with the C as well. That is. I think that's the perfect point for it. So yeah. Anyway, we should move on from Batman. I'm sure the conversation will come back to it after, you know, with Justice League and whatnot. So we'll come back to some more conversations around this. Wonder Woman.
Yes.
What a pleasant surprise this film was. My God. I'll be honest with you. After seeing Batman versus Superman, I was expecting nothing from Wonder Woman. I thought it was going to be a generic Snyder-esque situation with like, oh, it looks flashy, but there's no substance to it. This film was great, and it is easily one of my favorite DC films.
Absolutely.
I think the setting of it helps it a lot. I'm sure we'll come back and look at that with 84 later on, but like setting it in World War II really helped this film. Like really, really helped it, and really helped establish, because we've never really seen, like, there's always talks of like, you know, Cap in World War II and stuff like that, and we kind of see it in the first Avenger, but like there's a lot of involvement with superheroes in World War II. You know, in Marvel, there's the Human Torch, the first Human Torch is in World War II. There's obviously the Howling Commandos and all the stuff like that we don't ever see. And I think putting Wonder Woman in World War II was really good. It was a really nice idea. I think they did the concept of Themyscira was excellent. It was a very believable place, and it was felt like a living, breathing world that was outside of our own, which was great. And so it made her feel human yet alien at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought the discovery of Themyscira was very believable as well. You know, Chris Pine getting shot down in World War II, and it just happenstance that he falls into this area. And the real core of this movie that makes it work is the amazing chemistry between Chris Pine and Gal Gadot. Because they're great. Like they're really good together in this film. And she's extremely believable as this kind of, strong, like independent woman who also has this like sensitive ability to love humanity, regardless of their flaws. and I know that some people burn on this movie for various reasons. You know, I think this movie, I knew this movie was great for the no man's land scene when she steps out onto no man's land and single-handedly takes out the machine gun nest with just her bracers and stuff, and it's amazing, and visually speaking, it's incredible. The where this film falls apart is the villain, Ares. He's very it's a common trope of the DCEU, which we'll talk about more, but just a bland, like, grey villain,
CGI villain.
I forget who the actor is in it, but he's a good. It's not Venom, is it?
It's the guy who plays as Remus in Harry Potter.
Yes, him. What is his name? 1 second, I will find out. It is. I don't want Pedro Pascal. That's the wrong movie. You've tricked me. Hold on. I will find out. Talk for a bit.
I really enjoy this movie as well. And I think another aspect of it is the idea of Diana being naive to the wider world and her, again, like you said, the discovery. Like, it's part of the charm and why one of the reasons you fall in love with her, because she looks at the world almost through child's eyes, where she tries on all these different dresses and outfits and stuff. And again, just tries to throw herself into at the age, the modern world and such.
The one thing I don't think it did necessarily greatly, which it could have done more with, is the views of women at the time, and how women were, because as unpleasant as it is to say, the world was a very different place in the 40s, and women were not respected as they should have been. And I don't think that, because it's a light comic book movie, that's fair enough. But that's really the one thing that they didn't really explore into, was the fact that, like, it was kind of just, you know, the men say something and then she dismisses it and the men just accept it. And in reality, unfortunately, that wouldn't have happened. It was a much darker time, and the world is as far as like rights are concerned and people's opinions, the world is a better place now than it was in the 40s. They could have done stuff with that maybe and played around with it a little bit, but it's a very that is a nitpicky point to make. You know, it's a very kind of edge case. It was, by the way, the guy was David Fuels. Yes, that was who played Ares. Again, with the exception of the villain, I thought it was an excellent film. I like Chris Pine's sacrifice at the end. Gave her a good weighted moment as well. I think it's definitely up there with Man of Steel. Whether or not it's an S.
You'd be happy with an A? I'd be happy with an A.
I think I'd be happy with an A. I'm going to say, I don't know if there's going to be any of these films that actually get an S. The Suicide Squad, maybe. Okay, we'll see. Anyway, but yeah, Wonder Woman. Guys, if you haven't seen Wonder Woman, go and see it. It's excellent. I would highly recommend Wonder Woman.
Absolutely.
I think we've got a different order, haven't we? Was it Justice League next?
I believe so. It's either Whedon's Justice League or Suicide Squad.
Oh, God, what a choice. Let me have a quick look. I mean, it doesn't matter, but... oh, God. What a horrible... So I've got... it was Suicide Squad. Actually, Suicide Squad was before Wonder Woman.
Was it really?
Yeah, so you've got Man of Steel, Dawn of Justice, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, then Zack Snyder, then Joss Whedon's Justice League, then Aquaman, then Shazam, then Birds of Prey, then Wonder Woman 84, and then the Suicide Squad.
Cool.
So let's do Suicide Squad next and talk about this apps. I mean, actually, just put it in F. It's fine. Move on. Done. Sorted. Nobody cares about Suicide Squad. Awful film. Absolutely awful. I don't even know where to begin with it. like, oh God, it's terrible. So I've told the story many times how a friend of the show and sometimes co-host Rinsler, he was most excited about Suicide Squad based on the first trailer. The first trailer was excellent. And this is the thing this is where we talk about the identity crisis of I'm much more interested, I think, in talking about the direction of the DCEU than I am actually talking about Suicide Squad with this, because this is a classic example of Marvel works, right? Because there is a guiding force who has a vision for what Marvel should be and where it's going to go. And they have quite clearly and very carefully planned out where they want to end up. Yeah. You can see it. You can understand. The first phase of Marvel was all about setting up for the Avengers. It was all about it. They knew what they were doing with it. You had the what at the time were B to C list heroes, and they knew that they were going to put them together and make a film called The Avengers and do a big superhero team up. That was what it was going to be around. That was phase one. When they finished with that, they then were like, okay, cool, this worked. So now let's do a big bad. And then they built everything around phase 2 and 3 around Thanos and the Infinity Gems. It was a very clear plan, and everything that they did slotted into that plan. They're doing the same again with Kang, and, you know, it makes sense. Tell me, over these films, what the plan is.
Yeah, it always felt like a copy from this point on, wasn't it? Let's copy what's happening on the other side of the fence.
I will tell you what happened with Suicide Squad, right? So Suicide Squad, originally, the first trailer that came out, the dark and gritty Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, the one place that would have actually really worked is on Suicide Squad. It would have been really good. And the first trailer they brought out, I think it was the I Started a Joke trailer. That was amazing. It was so good. It was brilliant. Like, you had Harley singing this haunting song, and like the intercut, and everything was really dark and serious. And it's like, it fit the tone of Task Force X so perfectly. And it was like, yes, that's going to be really good. And then Guardians of the Galaxy happened. And suddenly, all the studios were like, oh my God, Guardians of the Galaxy's here, and everyone wants bombastic craziness. Yeah. Oh no, what are we doing? We're doing a superhero film that's really serious. Better make it crazy. And then the next couple of trailers you see, it's all that Queen, like, it's like, you know, Queen's, I can't remember what the song was that they used on it, but like, it was insane. And it was like all like, you know, suddenly like hyper comical craziness.
With radio songs.
Yes, precisely. And it was all like, and then the finished product came out, and clearly the studio had got to it after test screenings and, you know, looking at the market, and went, oh yeah, we need to make it more crazy funny. We need to make it more out there, more outlandish, more, you know, wild. Let's just cut this to death. And then let's intersperse it with some joke stuff. And Margot Robbie in hot pants. That'll sell.
I mean, it kind of did.
It unfortunately did. I know, that's the worst part of it.
Like, we're here in Halloween 2021. Since 2016, I think every other person has done a Halloween of Jared Leto's Joker and Harley.
I mean, Jared Leto's Joker is very easy to do. I would argue that's why they've done it. And Harley, I mean, Margot Robbie is she is a phenomenon as far as like actresses is concerned, and I still remember her from Neighbours, the Australian soap. So there you go. And I fancied her then as well. But like, I just think that, I mean, it takes a lot for me to feel sorry for Jared Leto, but I do genuinely feel sorry for him in terms of Suicide Squad, because from what I can gather, his performance as Joker was absolutely destroyed in that film. I can't even tell you. I mean, like, there was this baddie called Enchantress who was also part of the team, but then she turned out to be a baddie, and then they had to fight some generic monsters to stop her, and then El Diablo goes explodey at the end. Yeah. That's it. That's the film. That's all there was to it. It was awful. Just an awful film, like really bad. Like, and I don't necessarily blame David Ayer, but I do wonder, even if it wasn't cut, how good the film would have been. I think Will Smith as Deadshot's really good. I think that Margot Robbie is Margot Robbie was born to be Harley. That's it. That's all I can say. Oh, and I tell you what, Rick Flag was really good as well. Joel Edgerton, is it? Was excellent in that. He was excellent in that.
What's the name of the?
No, it's not Edgerton, is it? It's McKiernan, isn't it?
No, you're right. I was thinking of Jay
Kinnaman. Joel Kinnaman.
Is it Kinnaman?
Yeah, it's Kinnaman. I do that every time.
Captain Boomerang, I kind of liked as well.
Oh yeah, Jai Courtney. Yeah, he's really good as well.
Yeah.
I forget about him because of the Suicide Squad, but yeah, I think we're both in agreement, aren't we? It's an F. I don't think we can possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a good cast. It's just like you said, it's just butchered when it came to the editing, and it's just turned into a completely different film. And you can tell straight away it's a different film, even without that first trailer.
Correct.
So yeah. Moving on.
Justice League. Joss Whedon's Justice League. Speaking of being absolutely butchered. So Whedon's Justice League is a special case. So obviously there was absolute tragedy involving this film. Zack Snyder's child unfortunately killed themselves. It was a horrible, horrible thing. And understandably, who wouldn't? Snyder backed out and didn't want to do it. So DC looked around and they got the guy who did the Avengers and they thought that could work. So they put him in there. And it really didn't work. No. It really didn't work. I will say this. I've rewatched this a few times. I don't think this is as bad as Suicide Squad. It is bad. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. It is very bad.
Yeah.
But it had some really interesting ideas in it. I think the performances of Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck save it from being an F. It doesn't do enough to bring it up any further than that for me. I think the original vision, it's interesting. We'll talk about it probably when we come to Zack Snyder's League. But the original vision of it was a much more of a grand epic. And you can really tell Cyborg's involvement has been reduced down dramatically. How much of that was because of backstage issues between Ray Fisher and Joss Whedon? I don't know. We're not going to speculate on that in this show. You and I both know my, let's just say, love of Ezra Miller as the Flash. I do not like him as the Flash. I think he is terrible. I think making the Flash the comic relief was okay, fine. I mean, the whole thing just it is a patchwork quilt of a movie. Designed by two different people and a studio that didn't know what they wanted. And unfortunately, it really doesn't come together to be a masterpiece like the Justice League should be.
Which is ironic, because that was the tagline, which was to unite or come
unite
together.
The seven. Unite the seven. There's only 6 of them. Obviously, we now know they wanted Martian Manhunter as well, but yeah, I mean, Jason Momoa is very good in this as well. I will say that Jason Momoa is excellent in this.
Because this was his first appearance as Aquaman as well, wasn't it?
This was, yes. Yes, it was Aquaman. His standalone would come out the next year, which we'll talk about next. But I think that the places that this fell down again, the Superman Resurrection was very ham-fisted, very, very ham-fisted. I really enjoy. I will say this: looking back on it, I actually really genuinely enjoy the fight when he comes back to life between the League and him. I think that's great. Like, that's a really good fight. And like, especially the bit that for me gets it. Maybe it's just because I like it. I enjoy watching Ezra Miller fall over, but the bit where the Flash is going super speed around him, and it's the first time he's ever experienced it, but Superman is like keeping up with him. Like that is great. Like that bit is great. Where like Cavill just turns his head, and Ezra Miller's like, "What?"
Just watching him.
And I'm just like, "Yeah, go on, clothesline him, do it, chokeslam him. I want to see Flash dead. It's the first time ever I've wanted it." But yeah, and it also goes to show that, like, whilst Wonder Woman is his somewhat of a physical equal to him, ultimately she would still get her ass kicked by Superman because he's just like Kryptonians are off the chain, man. Like it's crazy.
They're a different breed.
I'd like to see. There's another race in the DCEU. There's another race called Daxiums, I think they are. And like they are basically they're Kryptonians. Essentially, they're Kryptonians in orbit name only. They're like a twin. I think they were a twin planet to Krypton.
I think because Mon-El is supposed to be from there, isn't he?
Exactly. Yeah, and they're charged by yellow suns. There's a thing in the what is that in the book? There's a scene in the book where somebody they don't live under a yellow sun, but they could do. They live under a red sun, and that's why they're never like Kryptonians, because they never get their full powers because they don't have the yellow rays. Yeah. And I can't remember. I think we're going to go down a bit of a rabbit hole, but I'll keep it brief. There's an entity called Ion, which is the willpower entity with the Green Lanterns. And that Ion gets possessed into a Daxium, and then the Daxium uses Ion to turn their sun into a yellow sun. And so they all get Superman powers. So it literally becomes a planet of Supermen. And then there's a very famous scene in one of the books with the War of the Lanterns, where Kronos takes back the Ion will energy, and when he does it, he takes away the yellow sun and makes it a red sun again. So there's a scene where it cuts to Daxium or whatever the planet's name is, and all these people are falling out of the sky because their sun has turned red. It's really horrible, but it's amazing. But I would really like to see some other races, like other, not just Kryptonian, because we've only really seen Kryptonian and human, and then we've got obviously Darkseid and that kind of thing. But I'd like to see some other races mixed into the DCEU and explore more of the cosmic universe, man. They really need to like get out there. But yeah, the villain in this, Steppenwolf, not great. Again, another grey villain, not memorable really. Again, you can very much see, like 2016, 2017, they didn't have a direction and they didn't know what they were doing, and there was nobody steering the ship, and there really was no guiding. And I will say, we'll probably see it coming up, but with the exception of Man of Steel and Wonder Woman, a lot of the films that we're going to look at coming up next, like they're really like quite crazy, bombastic, and quite comic booky, and they do really well for it. Yeah, and it's almost like maybe you should look at that, DC, and think about your characters and think about what your characters represent and what they should be represented on screen, But anyway, that's just me.
The only other thing I'll add to that as well is a lot of this I didn't like, and the way certain characters were used, I wasn't a fan of either. Like, one thing that sticks in my mind is, for an example, is when Superman does come back, Batman stands there and has like this goofy smile on his face, like it's Christmas Day, and I'm like, that's not right.
I know you were trying to kill this man, like in literally the last time we saw you.
But what I will say is, I really like the color gradient in this. Like, the idea of brightening up everyone's suits and everything. The only other scene I really like in this movie is when Superman and Cyborg separate the mother box. Like, Superman says, what do you need me to do to help? And he's like, just try and separate them. And then when they do separate, they're both on their backs laughing. Yeah, I really like that. But a lot of the other tongue-in-cheek, like you say, is just really bad. Like, Batman making jokes and stuff is just distasteful.
Again, though, it's distasteful. It's just bad taste. Good lord. No. but the reason why, again, it's a detriment to what they were doing, because, like, yes, there is that kind of relationship in the Justice League, and they are close. That they should be close. In the books, they are close. Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent are friends. They both know who each other is. They both know the other's identity. They are, Bruce and Clark are probably, like, Bruce Wayne, as far as, like, best friends are concerned, Clark Kent is probably Bruce Wayne's best friend in the entire world, in the entire universe, which is saying a lot, because Batman does not have friends. And that's fine. Like, it's okay if you want to lean into that in the films, but man, you've got to explore it. You've got to actually give them, like, time to be friends. Like, we saw literally the last time that Superman and Batman were together, they were killing each other, and then Superman dies, and then suddenly Batman's like, he was my best friend. Like, what? No. Like, Tony Stark and Sam.
Brody.
No. Why have I forgotten? It's Steve Rogers.
Right.
Tony Stark and Steve Rogers are friends in the MCU. It is established. They have been friends before Civil War happens. Before any of it happens, they are friends. They have this established thing as the Avengers. All of them are friendly. There's even a scene in Age of Ultron where they have a party together and they're hanging out socially, and they are friends, which is why when one of them dies, there is real resonance and impact amongst them, because they're all friends. And this was just like, hey, we've done like 3 movies. They're all best friends. Yeah. No, just give it time, DC. You're not going to ham fist this all together and have it work. And Justice League is a perfect example of this. D. Put it in D.
D. What's next?
Don't watch this one. Watch the other one. Aquaman is next.
Aquaman. Okay, so we got this is a real sort of palette change, shall we say, to what we've had previously. Directed by James Wan.
Justice League flopped as well, guys. Can we just say Justice League flopped bad? And I think it made DC stand up and take notice, because Suicide Squad flopping was like, okay, fine, but it didn't flop. It was successful. But the fact that Justice League, with their most popular heroes, flopped, that was a big deal to DC. Like, that was a big deal. And I think Aquaman is a reflection of that. I think, ironically enough, if you look at the content from here on in, we're not going to see another D.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
Okay, all right. Well, regardless, Aquaman is definitely not a D.
No.
So yeah, Momoa's first solo stint.
Yes.
Thoughts on Momoa as Aquaman?
He wouldn't have been my first choice, but he is a great choice, considering up to this point, Aquaman had always been sort of a joke.
Yes.
To the outside audience. Like,
yes.
He talks to fish, we've all heard it before.
Yeah.
And so forth.
I mean, they parody him in The Boys with the Deep, don't they? So
yeah.
Like, there's that famous bit in Big Bang Theory where they all go dressed as characters, and Raj is dressed as Aquaman, and he's got that unicorn, that seahorse rubber ring.
Yeah. Where with Jason Momoa, like, he brings like a whole new energy and perspective to the idea of Aquaman, where he's not just Aquaman, the man who talks to fish. He's the Aquaman,
Yes.
Who likes to drink Jack Daniels and strips off and swims in Norwegian waters.
He's biker surfer dude Aquaman.
Yeah.
I think we talk a lot about committing to the comics and things being used and genuinely done as they were in the comics. And I think with Aquaman, I think this was the very right move to make, to not stick to the comics. I think Arthur Curry in the comics, actually, I think he gets a bad rap. There's some really badass stuff that Arthur does in the comics that is amazing. I mean, I want to see, I really do want, I hope in Aquaman 2, we're going to see him lose his hand and get the hook hand. I really hope that, because Like there's for anyone who doesn't read the comic books and has watched like the some of the cartoons when you were growing up, like there's an amazing bit where they show how hardcore Arthur is when he cuts his own hand off to save his child, and that's why he has the hook hand afterwards. It's badass. It's really cool. It's like, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I think Aquaman is really, it's just really good. It's a really good film. A really solid, like it doesn't reshape the genre or change anything. It didn't do anything revelatory in terms of kind of like, oh wow, this is amazing, this is what we need to do from now on. But it was just a really solid introduction and a great origin piece, really, for a character that probably should have come before Justice League, if we're honest, because I think it probably would have added some weight into Justice League to have this association with Aquaman before that movie came out. It's almost like they went, oh, we've got all these characters, we'll just lump them together. Nah, people don't need to know who they are, don't worry about it. It's like, doesn't really add to the weight of the movie, though. I have my personal, this is not a reflection of the podcast. I don't like Amber Heard, so I don't like her as Mera. But, I mean, she does okay with the movie. We spoke about it earlier on, but Yahya Abdul-Mateen is phenomenally good as Black Manta. Amazingly good. And the relationship between him and Aquaman in this film is excellent. And that is very good. He doesn't get enough of a spotlight to shine, personally speaking. In this film, it's much more about Ocean Master and the Atlantis relationship, which that's the only I
liked it though. I liked the Ocean Master stuff. I thought it was really cool.
I like it as well. I definitely 100% agree with you. My only issue with Aquaman as a character is he's a little bit one note for me, and I'm sure I'm going to get some comments for that. But like his big thing is it's always about Atlantis. And it's always like he's the midpoint between he's half human, half Atlantean, and so it's always the the world should be at peace, the sea shouldn't be at war with the land, and it's like that's fine, but once you've explored that, where else is there to go? But no, I mean, look, this film is fun. It's good. It has really great visuals, as you were, like the trench sequence that we were talking about earlier on in the news. It's great, that trench sequence. It's very visually stunning. It looks fantastic when they're parting the waves down the darkness with the light. It looks amazing. Like it looks really, really good. Patrick Wilson as Ocean Master is really good in it as well. It was the first because he's obviously done the Conjuring films and stuff like that, but that was the first thing I'd seen Patrick Wilson in since being Owlman in Watchmen. So it was kind of refreshing to see him come back to the comic book fold in that regard. Solid movie. I would put it as I personally would put it as either a C or a B. But what are your thoughts on it, Zane?
I would say a B, just because it was, again, visually, I thought I think it really did explore this idea of Aquaman not knowing where he belonged as well. Like, where he has that. Am I wrong in thinking it's Helen Mirren who does the voice of like the Kraken creature?
Yes, it is.
Which is insane.
I forgot about the Kraken thing. Well, Nicole Kidman's his mum, isn't she?
Yeah. And Boba Fett's his dad.
Yes, the famous actor known as Boba Fett. Yes, yes, that is correct. I can't remember what the guy's name is now. He's got one of those. Yeah. What is his name? Oh, it's going to drive me nuts. But it's got Dolph Lundgren in it as well, man. I mean, geez, like it's what's his name? It's Tamura Morrison. That's his name. Tamura Morrison is the guy who plays Boba Fett. Yes, yeah, he's great. Again, a great cast as well. Fantastic cast. I enjoy Aquaman. It's a really fun film. Really
I
fun.
say it's easy B.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. It's better than It's better than Batman Superman, that's for sure.
It made $1 billion as well, didn't it? So
there you go. B for billion.
Right,
perfect.
Makes a bit.
Perfect. Shazam.
Shazam. Wow.
Man, this film was a huge surprise for me. I was expecting nothing from this. I honestly thought it was going to be awful. I had no expectations. I went into this film with zero expectations. I am one of the old school who still refers to Shazam as Captain Marvel, because he's always been Captain Marvel to me. And yes, I know there's a female Captain Marvel in Marvel, but this has always been like Shazam has always been Captain Marvel to me. Captain Marvel's one of my Billy Batson. I loved Captain Marvel growing up. He was one of my favorites. The idea of a kid who could become a superhero by saying a magic word, it's fantastic. It's great. And he has some of my favorite fights. Like, he is physicality wise, Shazam. I'll refer to him as Shazam from now on. No, I hate it. He has the physical equivalent to Superman, indestructibility level equal to Superman. He can fly. He just doesn't have. He's basically Superman without the laser eyes and the frost breath. He can't do any of that. He also has magic. Like, his powers are based around magic, which is why he can physically match Superman, because Superman's always had a problem with magic. Again, going back to the cartoons of there's an amazing one of the Justice League episodes where Superman and Captain Marvel meet each other for the first time, and they have a fight, and the fight levels an entire city. And Shazam, it's great because, like, when Billy Batson says the magic word, which is Shazam, a bolt of lightning comes down from the gods and transforms him into Captain Marvel, and then it flips back. It will take the powers away. And so there's this amazing bit where, like, Captain Marvel just grabs Superman in a bear hug, and then he keeps saying Shazam, and the lightning just comes down and it keeps hitting Superman over and over and over again. And I was like, that is such a great idea. That is amazingly good. Until
his chest as well, isn't it?
It is burning his chest, until Superman flips it and then turns him into a boy. And it's so good. But yeah, this film's great. What's the bad guy in it? I wanted to say Dr. Zhivago. It's not Dr. Zhivago. What's his name? Oh God, that's gonna drive me nuts. I know it's Mark Strong. Sylvana, Dr. Sylvana. That's it. It's Dr. Sylvana. Again, kind of a trope of the DC. It kind of falls apart with his villains, because Dr. Sylvana's not a great villain in this. He's fine. And I guess they're kind of exploring the Grand Wizard, who gives Shazam his powers.
It's not Solomon, is it?
I'm not sure if it is.
It is.
It is. It's the Wizard Shazam. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Jimon Houston, or whatever his name is?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Honsu. Honsu. I can never say his name. I'm sorry. I'm butchering it, guys. I apologize. I apologize sincerely on behalf of me and the podcast for butchering that name. But yeah, it's the Wizard Shazam. That's it. Which is why I don't like the fact that he's called Shazam now, because you don't call Black Adam Black Shazam.
Or Shazam Adam.
Exactly. It does. Like, why are we doing it that way? Call him Captain Marvel, because I personally hate the idea, and this is what really irritates me. Right. So this is the part that really irritates me. Okay, and this has nothing to do with the film, guys. I'm tangenting. Zane.
Yes.
If Billy Batson in his superhero form walks up to people, holds his hand out, how does he introduce himself?
He says, "Hi there, my name is," and then reverts into a little boy.
Exactly. Why would you have your secret name, like, that changes you into the hero, be your identity? Like, as soon as he walks up to somebody and introduces themselves, one of two things is going to happen. As you said, he's going to turn into a little boy, or he's going to viciously electrocute someone with lightning.
But then I guess you could spin that and say some heroes don't choose their name. It's always like the news reporter or someone else, isn't it? Someone online chooses it for them. Lois Lane chose Superman.
I'll give you that. No, fair. That's fair. That's a fair cop. I look forward to the mass electrocutions that are coming. This film's really good. I like that they lean into the goofy side of it. The fact that he is a boy who is a hero. I love that. I think it's great.
It's basically big as well, isn't it? It's Tom Hanks big. Yeah.
Exactly, which is brilliant. Like, it's really well done. I will say this: a lot of these ideas and a lot of these films, the best times that they work are when they do their own thing. That's what's been proven, I think, with the DCEU, is that really a lot of the times when they're doing their own, like, look at Wonder Woman. Like, Wonder Woman was not tied to anything. As Man of Steel was not tied to anything. Aquaman really was not tied to anything. They're all part of that universe, but they're not worried about the grander schemes. And that's what, and if you look back at early MCU as well, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, they're all doing their own thing. They're not actually tied to big grand things. They're linked with little tidbits here and there, but it all equates up to, and that's what they should have done with the DCEU, really. Marvel did crack the code when it comes to origins and big ensemble pieces. But anyway, back to Shazam. Sorry. The bad guys are where this fails, I'm afraid. It's not, they don't have good bad guys. The film itself is really good. It has, I think Zachary Levi as Shazam was a controversial choice, but I think he really pulls it off. I think he's great.
I wasn't a fan of the casting to begin with, but like you say, I think his whole comedy sort of shtick, shall we say, carries the movie. And like you said, the muscle suit, again, it wasn't something I was a big fan of, but it kind of leans into the whole concept of a goofy, look how wacky this is. Like,
what would happen if a 10-year-old boy wanted to be a superhero? He'd be a ridiculous, muscly suited guy. Like, it would be like that. He'd be The Rock. But I really like this film. Mark Strong is, I want to just do a quick shout out. So Mark Strong as Dr. Savannah. He's great, but he doesn't have enough to do. And I think that Mark Strong has been very unlucky when it comes to comic book films. He was absolutely perfect casting as Sinestro in Green Lantern. Absolutely brilliant. And I adored it. And I am so disappointed that he is not going to be Sinestro again, because they ain't going to touch Green Lantern with a barge pole for a long time. But sorry, that's an English expression, by the way, guys. Sorry. They're not going to come near Green Lantern for a long time. But, Mark Strong's good. And he would have been so good as, this duality Sinestro where you're never sure if he's on your side or not. It would have been great. So, I'm very annoyed at that. But, anyway, back to Shazam. Yes, it's good. B. Easily a B.
Yeah. I hope Mark Strong is a Lex Luthor in the future.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you've struck the nail. I was thinking about a Kraven. I thought he'd be quite good as Kraven the Hunter as well. But no, you're right. Lex Luthor would be on point. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, curse you for putting fan casting in my head, Zane. That is brilliant.
That's what I do in my spare time.
Yeah. Okay. So next up was Birds of Prey.
Wow. It's quite recent as well, isn't it?
It is recent. 2020. Yeah, these last 4 films have come out in the last year.
That's weird.
I know. Crazy. Pandemic, mate.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I really enjoyed Birds of Prey. I thought it was a lovely little piece. I think Margot Robbie. I think obviously Margot Robbie produced and partly wrote, I think, this film as well.
Yeah.
She obviously has invested a lot of herself in the Harley character. It's why I thought she was going to die in the Suicide Squad. Spoiler, guys. I think this film is really fun. It's very much a star power vehicle for Margot Robbie. Let's not pretend this is like a grand DCEU perfection film or anything like that. This is literally like a one-note film of this is for Margot Robbie. This is for Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. This is so that she can do her thing. So for me, this has a couple of interesting things in it that really set it apart. The involvement with her and the Birds of Prey actually interests me, because I don't believe she's an original member of the Birds of Prey in the books. So it's an interesting thing. I preferred the original title, which was something like what was
Sirens.
It was the Emancipation of Harley Quinn or something like that. The Beautiful Emancipation of Harley Quinn, or something, which they then changed to be Birds of Prey, or the Beautiful. So it's basically a post Joker breakup Harley who is reeling and doesn't really know what she's doing, because she's crazy, because Harley Quinn is crazy. So she's all over the place, and she gets involved with the wrong kind of people. The wrong kind of people are Roman Sionis, otherwise known as Black Mask, who is portrayed by Ewan McGregor. Now, this is where it gets interesting for me, because Ewan McGregor is one of my thirst objects. He's, my God, is he a handsome man. I love Ewan McGregor. I think I cannot begin to tell you how excited I am about the Obi-Wan series that he's going to be doing.
Can't wait.
I think Ewan McGregor is a fantastic man. I think he's a lovely person, and I love him. So I don't think he gets enough to do in this film as Black Mask. Black Mask is a sticking point for me, because he is one of the most vicious villains in the DC comics. He enjoys torture. He enjoys hurting people. Probably the most famous book of his that I've read is a series called War Games, which is, again, it's just more of Batman planning and then plans coming back to haunt him. He basically plans how could you consolidate all the gangs in Gotham and bring them under Batman's control so that he could control all crime. That is what War Games is about. And then in an effort to impress him, one of his students, Stephanie Brown, who is known as Spoiler, she uses that and triggers the War Games and triggers a massive gang war. And unfortunately, the end result of that is that Black Mask consolidates all power and becomes the crime lord in Gotham. It's fantastic. And in the process, murders Stephanie Brown in a really, really horrible torture scene. So Black Mask is a serious threat and should be treated as a serious threat, and has never been treated as a serious threat in the entertainment medium that is film and TV. You kind of see glimpses of his torturous side in this, when he cuts off people's faces and does horrible things to families and stuff like that. But McGregor chooses to play him in a much more jokey, kind of like whiny kind of way, which doesn't really work necessarily, but it's fine for what it is. The other characters in this, Huntress appears in this, which is quite a notable, and Black Canary. Again, both two massive heroes who have, like, Huntress has huge connections with Batman and Gotham. Black Canary is more primarily than not turns up with
Green Arrow.
Green Arrow. Yeah, thank you. Because the two of them are a couple. It's a fine film. It's very play by the numbers. It doesn't really rewrite the rules or anything. I would put it as a C, probably. What do you think?
Like you said, it's an enjoyable film. In some ways, it makes me think that this was Harley Quinn's Deadpool, the answer to Deadpool, shall I say? Like Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. This is in so many ways Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn.
Yes.
Like you said, enjoyable, even though they're not comic book accurate, such as, like you said, Black Mask. I really like the Black Mask villain, especially with his role in Under the Red Hood and, like you said, War Games and things of that nature.
Yes.
I've always been a fan of that. This isn't the same Black Mask, but I still enjoyed Ewan McGregor's performance because, like you said, he's just wacky. The idea is that Mr. Zaz is like his right-hand man. Was really cool. I like that as well. I didn't like the idea of Cassie. Oh, yeah.
No, I was going to say, I'm not sure how much I enjoy the idea of Zaz as a mercenary. Because they do the same thing with him in Gotham, because Zaz is another villain where it's like his motivations are very different. He's not about he doesn't care about money. He doesn't give two hoots about money. His idea is just that his religion is murder, and every time he murders people, it's he needs the mark on his body. He's like an ultimate addict. Yeah, it's an addict. It's an addiction. That's why he's like, if you see him, he's got all these scars all over him for the amount of people he's killed, because he needs to hurt people. He needs to kill them. It's his raison d'etre. It's what he wants. So the idea that he's kind of a mercenary for hire, I don't really like that, but it is what it is.
I was distraught with the idea of Cassie, one of the other Batgirls, being this like pickpocketer, sidekick to Harley Quinn. I wasn't a fan of that either. For me, I probably say it's a D. Like I had no interest of rewatching it or revisiting it. I mean,
bad as Joss Whedon's Justice League, I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that. It's a C, man. It's not. I agree with you. It's not up there with like Shazam, Aquaman, or anything like that. I think it's solid enough. It's solid enough to be. If you were looking at this tier list, I wouldn't recommend you watch. I wouldn't recommend you watch Suicide Squad. I wouldn't recommend you watch Justice League. I would say watch Birds of Prey. I'll
put it in a C. I'll compromise.
Okay, cool.
I again, it was just no rewatchable value for me.
No, I look, I agree with you in the sense of like it's definitely not up there as far as like the DCEU is concerned. But I think it's got some really good, like when you talk about Batman versus Superman, we both agreed that Batman versus Superman was saved for its performances. You know, it's not a good film. And Birds of Prey, whilst it's not a good film, the performances in it are really good. Like, you know, Ewan McGregor for his part is really good in it. Margot Robbie is excellent as Harley Quinn always, you know, and I think it's worth a watch. I agree with you though, it's not amazing. Speaking of not amazing, Wonder Woman 84 is next.
I have to be honest, I was really hyped for this. Like
the
idea, I really enjoyed the trailer. I really like the idea of Wonder Woman in the 80s because, of course, you know, the TV show, that's what it seemed to be heavily like leaning towards, the idea. The Linda Carter TV series and stuff. Another thing the trailer showed us was the return of Chris Pine.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was just kind of like, really? Are we gonna do that? Like, and of course, Cheetah, which again I was kind of excited for because I've always, especially with the animated stuff, in Justice League, for example, seen Cheetah and Catwoman, Cheetah and
I know what you mean.
Wonder Woman fight and stuff. But yeah.
I mean, Cheetah is like Wonder Woman's arch nemesis, and typically that's you know every hero has an arch nemesis. You know, Batman's got Joker, Superman's got Lex Luthor, and traditionally speaking, Wonder Woman's nemesis is Cheetah normally. I will say that I was more excited actually for Maxwell Lord in this one. So Maxwell Lord is a villain who hasn't really been used much in the entertainment lore, but in the books he is like he's kind of sitting in the realm of the Lex Luthor-y kind of you know, genius mastermind machination guy. But the reason why it interested me so much was the fact that in the books, I think it's OMAC Project, which leads into Infinite Crisis. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Wonder Woman breaks his neck and kills him in the books. So he's one of the few people that Wonder Woman has murdered, outright murdered as well. There's no two ways about it. She goes full on Superman neck cracking. She pops that neck like there ain't no tomorrow. So to me, I was like, oh, are they going to explore some Wonder Woman darkness with this? Because like, is she going to kill? Is Maxwell Lord going to do something so bad that she's going to have to kill him? Well, it didn't turn out quite that way. I don't think this piece was so much a Wonder Woman film, if I'm honest with you, as it was a star power piece for Pedro Pascal and for Kristen Wiig. Because the involvement of Chris Pine again, it was nice to see him back. and it was nice to explore more of their relationship. And it was nice to see him as kind of the fish out of water instead of her. It was a nice twist on the dynamic. It didn't really work because it wasn't really him. It was like a weird wish thing that, you know, and she wasn't even looking really at him. She was looking at another guy who he'd taken over the body of. So basically Wonder Woman just raped a man. But nobody wants to talk about that. The Maxwell Lord thing, it didn't really work for me. Like the turning himself into a wishing stone so that everyone would wish and he would get more powerful. It just felt like a weird, hokey, strange. It felt like the plot of an 80s TV show, which would have worked in the 80s, but did not work today. It wasn't great. Ironically enough, I think Kristen Wiig as Cheetah was good. Like, I think I think she did really well with it and with the material she was given. The CGI when she actually turned into Cheetah, a little bit wonky. I think it defeated a little bit of the suspension of disbelief, but fine, you know, it was all right.
Yeah, it's like you say. This for me felt like a movie that was made in 2003. You had like flip trucks, you had like weird bits where they both spin like this, like head to head for no reason. He was twiddling his. For those of you listening instead of watching, he was twiddling his fingers in a circular motion there, guys. So you can fill it in. But yeah, I was disappointed because I had one thing painted in my mind going into this, again from what I saw from the trailer, and it was completely different and, dare I say, weak. It wasn't a good film. I don't think it helped the fact that it was released both in cinemas and on HBO Max. You know, we should point out that after Birds of Prey, these next three films, they're in the advent of DCEU having the agreement with HBO Max, and so these films were released on that medium. So I don't think it helped. It was a bit all over the place. I think it's an all right film on its own. It's definitely it's not speaking for you, Zane, but I think it's definitely in the C ratings. I don't think it's up there, unfortunately. I think it's got its place in the wider view of things, but it's not great, is it? No. I have to apologize as well. In case you can hear it, there's a hailstorm that's happening.
Oh, really? Is that what that was?
Yeah, right next to me.
I want to reassure the listeners. I can see Zane, and he's definitely not sitting on his toilet. It's not what that noise is in the background, but nature, guys, nature. The world is burning. That's what it is. So
there we go. There we are.
But yeah, World War Wonder Woman 84 is
It's a C. Yeah, I agree with you.
It's a C.
I agree.
I believe if we're looking at chronological order, Zack Snyder's Justice League is actually next. Oh, this film.
4 hours.
4 hours of joy. Here's a revelation for you, Zane. I still haven't watched the whole thing.
Oh, really?
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but unfortunately I cannot get a copy of it anywhere at the moment without having to pay through the nose for stuff. So I know what happens in it. I know the details of it. I know the core things enough to talk about it and comment on it. And I've seen a lot of clips from it as well. It does a lot of things right, this one. Again, I will argue and I will say, does it need to be 4 hours? Or maybe could you have not have explored some of the characterizations and some of the things in, I don't know, other movies?
Well, a lot of this was made with hindsight as well.
Yeah.
Let's not forget. So knowing
you say,
that Zack,
you say that, but Ray Fisher's Cyborg, the original plan and always was for him to be heavily involved. Why do it in Justice League? Why not do it in his own movie? Not in his own movie, because Cyborg's a bit of a weird character. But we've seen team up movies with other heroes, like where Hulk is involved in Thor. You could have easily done that. You could have easily had an Aquaman with Cyborg team up. You could have easily had a Superman Cyborg team up. You could have had a Wonder Woman. You know, there's any number of combinations you could have done that you didn't need to do it in a 4-hour long film. Anyway, my apologies. Go on.
So with hindsight, because we know the version that Joss Whedon had made was something ridiculous, like 30% of Zack's original vision, and the rest of it was reshoots.
Yes.
So we managed to see some of that back in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
But again, there's a lot of speculation around it, even to this day, because originally when we got the DC slate, this Justice League was supposed to be a part 1 and part 2, similar to Avengers, Endgame, and Infinity War, because again they were going to match it. And I do wonder if this is a combination of 2 movies, or if it's
sorry, it's my front door. My apologies, guys. Go on.
No worries. I do wonder if this was like 2 movies stitched together. Obviously, there's a prologue and aftermath, shall we say, where Zack would have gone, which we know would have been like the next movie down the line and such. So we get a glimpse of that towards the end of this movie.
I mean, there was a lot of things that this film did right. I'm glad that they did the black suited Superman after Rebirth. Like that needed to. That was really good. Wanted to see him with a mullet, but let's ignore that. I think that the characterizations in this, from what I have seen, I apologize because I obviously it's secondhand information because I've seen clips and bits and pieces and whatnot. But Zane, you can always correct me if I'm mistaken on this. The characterizations in this do feel a lot more on point, and you can really feel like it is more in line with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. It does feel like a natural evolution of those characters and where they are in the world. Having Darkseid instead of Steppenwolf is. It's a move. Whether it's a good one or not, I would have liked to have seen it. Darkseid is DC's Thanos, basically. Like he really he is a very, very, very big bad in DC. He is technically one of the new gods, I think. So. He's a hard thing to explain if you don't know who he is. You know what I mean? Thanos is very easy to explain. You know, he is the last of his kind, the mad Titan, last of his kind, and he has a very clear morality base. Darkseid is harder to explain in the sense of he's in a constant war between New Genesis and his world, and Apocalypse, and his motivations for doing things. He is a conqueror of worlds, but it would have been nice to have more exploration into what his motivations are and make him not more human, but like more understandable as to what he wants. So, absolutely. I think having him involved is good, but it is a bit of a rush. Ironically enough, I do like the idea of him having generals like Steppenwolf who do the soldiery footwork for him, and Granny Goodness, obviously, and people like that. I like the introduction of Martian Manhunter as well. I thought that was good. It was nice to have that and to have him be like hidden on Earth the whole time, and already been involved previously. I thought that was really good. I liked that a lot. The Flash's fleshing out of his character was much better. Cyborg, much better.
Much better.
Just a lot of things that were way improved in this version of it. Did it need to be 4 hours, or could you have done that over a grander scheme of things? That's a question. There's no doubt that this film is epic. Like, it's very epic. I don't think, speaking personally, I don't think it hits the highs that a lot of people were hoping for in terms of it being the all-father of the DCEU, you know, the thing that was going to make everything right and everything okay, and suddenly the whole DCEU was going to work and everything was going to be perfect. I think a lot of people were banking on that, and it was like, Zack Snyder was the second coming of DC Christ, you know, and I don't think it hit those heights. Speaking personally,
sure,
but where would you place it, Zane? I think this is your one to place, my darling, on this one.
I would say a B, because again, I know not everyone would say this was the masterpiece like you said, that we were all waiting and expecting for. Again, for someone who's like Zack's work and all of his works leading up to this, I think, again, like you said, it kind of feels better in terms of the journey, because, again, we've had Man of Steel, and this was the sort of the trilogy, shall we say, from where he's on his own to meeting his best friend Batman, where he fights him and find out they have a similar mother name.
They fight for a bit and then they're best friends, yeah.
Yeah. And then him getting all his friends together.
Can I ask you a probably a difficult question to answer?
Sure.
Would this film be an A if it was an hour shorter and had a cinema release?
I think the one last thing to have made it an A would have been Jon Stewart.
Right. Okay. It needed to say.
I like you said, an hour shorter, a cinema release, and Jon Stewart. It would have been probably even an S for me. Like,
but what does the political commentator Jon Stewart bring to it?
He brings a ring from Oa.
Did it have to be Jon Stewart?
No, but I know that Zack's got pictures on his phones which he loves to show people.
Yeah, of Jon Stewart. Yeah, I for me, I don't know with Green Lantern. It's you know how I feel about Green Lantern. I am a Green Lantern fanboy. He is one of my favorite heroes. Specifically speaking, I actually like the. I mean, I love the Hal Jordan version of it. I actually really enjoyed the Guy Gardner version. I really like the hot-headed Green Lantern. Really? I do, yeah. Yeah, I do like him a lot. I wanted to, for the longest time, unfortunately it never happened, but for the longest time I wanted the Guy Gardner jacket. Like he's got like a Green Lantern, almost like a varsity type jacket. Yeah, I loved it. I love that jacket, man. I really wanted that jacket for the longest time. I think probably my favorite Green Lantern though is actually Kyle Rayner. I have this big affinity for the Last of the Kind, characters, and like it's the same with Doctor Who. The reason why I really got into Doctor Who was I loved the idea of him being the last of the Time Lords and out on his own and this lone wanderer. And it's the same with Kyle, where it was like he was the last Green Lantern in the universe. And he had, Nova is another hero who I love as well. And he's another one where it was like Richard Rider was the last of the Nova Corps. I really have an affinity with the last of their kind of thing and keeping the light burning. I would love to see Kyle Rayner brought to film. I would love it. I think that, and ironically enough, I think that is the perfect way right now to introduce the Green Lanterns. I think if they were to have it where Gathnet, one of the Guardians, because obviously the Green Lanterns have these Guardians. If he was to come to Earth with the last Green Lantern ring, and that is the origin story for the Green Lanterns, is that there's all this history that we don't know about right now, but like just all you need to know is that there's this incredibly powerful thing in the universe known as the Green Lanterns. They used to be around. They're gone. We don't really know why they're gone. Here is, you are being bestowed as the last of your kind. Take this and have the legacy of Green Lanterns under your wing. You do a Green Lantern movie, then you do, in the sequel, you introduce Hal Jordan and you introduce the backstory as to why the Green Lanterns have been destroyed. And then you go from there. And then maybe in 3, then you can start to look at the cosmic picture of things. It's so easy, Zane. It's so easy to think of how you can do it, but they just don't do it. And, it's frustrating. Green Lantern should be, and I'm not talking about wacky zaniness, but Green Lantern should be to DC what Guardians was to the MCU. It should be the opening of the door to the cosmic universe in DC. Absolutely. It really should.
Absolutely.
But there you go. Yeah, I'm more than happy for you to put it in a B, 100%. Again, I haven't seen the whole thing, so I can't really comment on it. But from what I know, piecing bits together, and obviously I trust your judgment on it. So yeah, more than happy. So that brings us bang up to date with the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, here we are. James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
So I think we know that this is going to be up there.
Yeah.
I think the question is how high up there. So of all the movies on this list, this is easily easily my favorite movie of all the ones that are on this list.
Yeah.
I've seen this film twice at the cinema. I loved it. I rarely go to the cinema twice to see a film these days. I rarely do it. This one I did because I loved it so much. I think that it is incredible. It is the perfect, absolutely pitch perfect tone for what the DCEU should be. It is slightly wildly bombastic. It feeds into those comic book flavors, but my God, is it, I almost swore, very, very gritty realism, gory mess. Like, it's great. Like, it's just so well done. It subverts expectations in so many good ways. You know, everyone expected this to be like this crazy wild shebang where all these characters are coming together and they murder half of them in the first 20 minutes. It had a really good villain in the shape of Starro, ironically enough, which you wouldn't even think, but like great. Like the thing that I really like about this, and the thing that James Gunn gets right, is that if you're gonna have all these super powered, crazy, wacky people come together, you need it to be a threat that is worth them coming together for, and you need it to be credible enough, and you need it to be something that could kick their asses as well. And like, Starro was really good. The Thinker was really good as well. Peter Capaldi was excellent in this. All of the casting in this, they came to the table with their best toys ready to play, and it was good. Like, it was really, really good. Idris Elba, I'm sorry, he does not get enough credit for how good he is, and I'm really disappointed that this, in the grand scheme of things, technically, The Suicide Squad was a flop, and I'm so disappointed by that because Idris Elba has been if you've seen him all the way back in The Wire as Stringer Bell, as Luther on British TV, he's an amazing actor and he's so good and he deserves so much more. You know, he was in Dark Tower. Poor man. You know, he should be more of a bankable movie star than he is. And unfortunately, I think this is probably going to be the final death nail on him being a leading force in a movie because it just didn't perform. But he's great in this as Death. What's
Bloodsport.
Bloodsport, thank you. I almost said Deadshot again. I was like, no, that's what I'm talking about. But like, he's great. Like, he's really good. Margot Robbie, obviously, as Harley Quinn, you know, she's perfect. Rick Flag Joel Kinnaman got so much more to work with in this and so much better. And I genuinely was sad when he died. Genuinely sad. I was like, I really wanted to see more of him. Like, really, really wanted to see more of him. John Cena, this is his breakout performance. This is the thing that people are going to hire him for in the future. He was so good as Peacemaker and is so good as Peacemaker. I don't know what more I can say about this film other than if you haven't seen The Suicide Squad, it is amazing. It frustrates me that it should have had more of a cultural impact in terms of what it was going to do for DC, because this is the direction they should be taking things. This is the direction that the DCEU should have, especially if they go cosmic. This is exactly the kind of thing they need for their cosmic universe. And I'm not just talking about copy James Gunn's, like, you know, stuff, because it is what it is, but like, there's a reason why these things work and there's a reason why these things are good. And I loved this. I absolutely love The Suicide Squad. What are your thoughts, Zane?
Besides the comedy, great casting, even some of it I did question, because again, Peter Capaldi as the Thinker, I was kind of like, really, like, Peter Capaldi can have some real range. Like, I've seen his stuff in Da Vinci, not only like Doctor Who, but of course, like, he's done other stuff as well.
The Thick of It is my favorite. Still my favorite. Peter Capaldi. For those of you who haven't seen The Thick of It, he's a spin doctor for a political party, much in the same way as in the UK there was a guy called Alistair Campbell who was part of the Labour Party, very famously, and it's kind of a take on that. But it's the sweariest you've ever seen. Have I shown you that? I can't remember whether I showed you that Doctor Who trailer where some.
Yeah, you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
But yeah, I really like this. Of course, it takes as James Gunn does, he takes the slightly skewed part of the DC history and turn them into these amazing characters like Polka Dot Man. Like,
Yes.
I couldn't only imagine where he would have gone with Polka Dot Man, and then he's gone even further with scenes of him like puking out polka dots and just weird stuff like that.
It's a dimensional virus. It's great.
But at the same time, he does all these like funny. Again, we use the word wacky a lot, but he really does wacky, zany stuff. But he also adds these real human elements to his characters. You know, that scene where they're at the bar and they have a few drinks and they start dancing and stuff. It makes them really human because we can relate. But at the same time, the movie doesn't really need that. Like,
look at if you want a good example of that, look at King Shark looking for new friends in that aquarium. Like, it makes him so sympathetic and so believable that, you know, he's this horrible monster, but like he just wants friends. Like, it's like, you know, it's I agree that James Gunn James Gunn loves oddballs, doesn't he? Like, he's all about the oddball characters, and so, you know, making them believable and making them relatable is what he's all about. But yeah, I love this film so much. I want it to be an S. I really do. It's so good, you know. And I think it would also, by the way, just to say, it would be a really nice cap if we do make it an S, because look at what's an F and look at what's an S.
Fine. I mean, the fan in me would have put this on par at an A with Man of Steel and Wonder Woman, but I'll grant you this one. I'll make it an S so that we have a perfect
synergy. But let me ask you this: as far as Suicide Squad's concerned, right? We talked about what the reservations were with Man of Steel and with Wonder Woman. What is the problem with the Suicide Squad? Exactly, and that's why it's an S. You know, you look at Man of Steel, and we can talk about like all of the kind of weighty resonance that we talked about to weigh it down and make it feel like, you know, sometimes it can be a bit of a hard slog to get through with certain things that we're not interested in or we've not seen or blah, 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 blah. You know, sometimes some of the villain motivations and, you know, all this other kind of stuff is a bit wonky. Wonder Woman, it's got a terrible villain and that's why it falls down. What is the problem with the Suicide Squad?
I know, but Man of Steel is so layered. Like,
it's so layered.
It's so layered. The complexity of it.
Is that a good thing, though?
It varies from person to person, doesn't it? I mean, for me, I revel in it.
I think, subjectively speaking, I think that Man of Steel is probably about as close as it gets to being an S tier. I just feel like there's some very questionable decisions in it, a la Zod at the end.
100%.
Yeah, and the entire destruction of Metropolis, let's not forget, because they do destroy all of Metropolis in that. Like, it's like Metropolis gets wiped out at the end of it. Yeah. Superman saves people. You know what I mean?
Morpheus is Perry White.
Dude, yeah, but like that's not enough to make it an S grade. You know what I mean? Like, you know, by that token, Margot Robbie's Harley and Suicide Squad still sucks. But the Suicide Squad, the fact that you had to hesitate to really think of something that could be wrong with that film. I mean, dude, like it's pretty perfect. Like, it really is.
I'll give you that.
So there we go, guys.
Should we recap the current listing in case for those that are listening?
We shall. Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, sure. So starting with S, we've got The Suicide Squad by James Gunn. A, we have Man of Steel and Wonder Woman. In the B category, we've got Aquaman, Shazam, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. In the C category, we've got Batman v Superman, Birds of Prey, and Harley Quinn. And then Wonder Woman 84. And then D, we've got Joss Whedon's Justice League. And then F, we've got Suicide Squad 2016.
So basically what we're saying is the best films in the DCEU, the best and worst films, are both the Suicide Squads. it's interesting. When you start looking at this thing, and when you look at this where this began in 2013, would you have expected the Suicide Squad to be the best of the DC bunch? Probably not. No. You would expect there to be a Batman, or you would expect there to be a Superman. The one thing we didn't talk about during this piece as well, which doesn't really fall into the DCEU, is they've made Joker as well in the meantime.
That's very true.
And I don't know where Joker would fit in this. I think Joker would probably be a B for me somewhere. It's more of a gangster movie that has Joker slapped over the top of it. But the thing that I think that we can learn from this, looking at it realistically, is that DC works when it's a interesting idea that they are expanding on as its own thing. And when something has been expanded on as its own thing, if you want to then amalgamate these things together into like a Justice League, then it will work. Because I would argue that Zack Snyder's Justice League is better after we've known Aquaman, after we've known Wonder Woman a bit more. I would argue that it brought it up a bit even more. But what do you guys think? What are your guys' opinions on our tier list? Are we talking absolute rubbish? Or are we on point with exactly where you think the DCEU is, along with us? Write into us. Let us know. We're available on all platforms. Zane, tell us where you are. Have you formally changed now to Zane Taicho?
I have indeed. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Of course, all links will be in the description down below, as well as Gigi, haven't you been streaming? I know you previously mentioned that you did.
Haven't I been streaming? Of course I've been streaming, Zane. Look at me. I'm a stream machine. Yes, you can find me twitch.tv/gentlemanlygamer, streaming every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm also on the gram, the IG, at gentlemanlygamer. So I normally post random rubbish about what I'm going to be doing on there. So come and have a look. And obviously you can get through to us at nerds.undisputed@gmail.com. It's been a bit of a long one this week, Zane, but it's been a good one. It's been a good one.
I've enjoyed this.
I do like doing the old tiering with you and ranking our best. I think we might have to come back and explore some more things, possibly some more Marvel related or DC Comics related stuff would be quite an interesting one to do.
That'd be cool. But let us know if you have any ideas of what we should tier. Let us know in the comments down below. We'd love to hear from you.
Have a great week, you guys. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.